I don't necessarily think that LinkedIn is for everybody, and I think the most important thing, first of all, is that you're at least found. And if they can't find you easily, then they just give up and they'll go and look for somebody else. Maybe you haven't got a profile at all. The problem with that is that people are making judgments about you and you don't even realise.
Let's go! Hello and welcome to the Brand New You Show, the podcast dedicated to helping you build your personal brand. We meet here each week to learn how building your brand can help you grow your influence, amplify your online reputation, and ultimately impact your career. I'm your host, Ryan Roten, and today is a Brand New You First as I welcome two guests, KYLIE Chown and Jane Anderson. Now, you may remember KYLIE from show 39. KYLIE is a certified master resume writer, a LinkedIn profile writer, and a Reach certified social branding analyst, and now an author. She works with executive job seekers, solopreneurs, professionals, and thought leaders to ignite their career and elevate their online and offline presence. KYLIE, it is my pleasure to welcome you back to the Brand New You Show.
Thanks, Ryan. Oh, it's really great to be back. I know last time we had a great podcast and I'm really excited that we can do it again.
Yeah, and also on that podcast, we introduced the book that we will spend most of our time talking about today. And that is where our second guest comes in, which is KYLIE's co-author, Jane Anderson. Jane is a keynote speaker, a podcaster, as well as a LinkedIn business-to-business marketing and lead generation expert. Jane has helped over 12,000 people globally have a greater impact on their marketing and personal branding by helping them develop their personal branding, LinkedIn profiles, and even their presentation and interview skills. She is the host of the #1 ranked podcast, The Jane Anderson Brand You Show, and author of the book Impact: How to Build Your Personal Brand for the Connection Economy. Jane, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Brand New You Show.
Thanks, Ryan. I've heard so much about your podcast and listened to some episodes, so thanks for having me.
Well, you're quite welcome. It's fun to have both of you on it. This, like I said, this is the first time I've never had two guests on at the same time, so it's exciting for me. And for those who don't know, KYLIE and Jane are both co-authors of the book called Connect: Leverage Your LinkedIn Profile for Business Growth and Lead Generation in Less Than 7 Minutes a Day. And we will spend most of our time talking during this show about the book. However, as KYLIE knows, before I start each show, I have one question that I like to ask all of my guests. And since KYLIE has already answered this question once, she gets a pass for today. So Jane, if you could vacation in only one place, where would you go?
Oh, that's easy. Las Vegas.
Las Vegas.
Yeah.
You are the first one to say Las Vegas.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my favorite holiday destination. I love it. There's so much to do. I love the shows. I love entertainment. I could just go to shows for a week and then go out and just the restaurants, the food, the service, the shopping. I need a holiday when I get back from Las Vegas usually. So yeah, my favorite place in the world.
So let's go ahead and start talking about your book. It's called Connect: Leverage Your LinkedIn Profile for Business Growth and Lead Generation in Less Than 7 Minutes per Day. And before I jump into questions, I do want to compliment both of you. It's got lots of great step-by-step instructions. You can literally take this and walk through it step by step and create what would have to be one of the most awesome profiles ever. So I commend you guys on the good job that you did just putting the book together.
Thanks so much. It's really great to hear. And that was really our, goal with the book as well, is to get it so that people could use it and implement it and get results from it.
So as I get in, my questions are going to follow kind of the chapters within the book. And so as I get into chapter 1 here and we talk about why LinkedIn is so important, Jane, my question for you is, everybody knows that they need to be on LinkedIn, but what does LinkedIn really mean to the job seeker or the business professional today?
Ryan, I think there's probably a couple of things. I think it's so powerful for a job seeker to get in front of the right client or right recruiter or company or hiring manager. Secondly, to set up your own business. And then thirdly, I think we're in this move now into companies. But even yesterday, I worked with a bunch of PhD graduates in a university. And for them, it's being able to collaborate with industry. Now, they have other sites like ResearchGate and all these other sites that researchers are on, but that's not where industry hangs out. Industry hangs out on LinkedIn. So I think that we're just seeing that move. Yes, it's been a career tool, and I think it will always be a career tool, but there's a bit of shift and also educating the market that it's not just a career tool, and if we build your team members' profiles, they're not all going to leave.
Right. Speaking of team members and just people in general on LinkedIn, one of the things I think people struggle with is, how often do they have to go in and update, and what do they update with? And we'll talk about some of that a little bit later. But KYLIE, my question for you now is, can somebody really manage their profile in as little as 7 minutes a day?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. And you would have seen in the book as well that we do have some, specific steps that they can follow. But I guess the key point to managing it in 7 minutes a day is really having that quality profile to start with. So it's going through the process, having a really strong profile, then having a strategy and a plan on how you're going to implement your profile. And then once you've got that, I think absolutely 7 minutes a day is really achievable. That 7 minutes a day can be a particular activity. It can also be batched together and doing things like writing a blog article and things like that. But yeah, definitely achievable in 7 minutes a day.
Okay. One of the other things that I thought was interesting in this first chapter is, Jane, this question will be for you because you wrote your first book was called Impact: How to Build Your Personal Brand for the Connection Economy. And you mentioned the connection economy as well in the first chapter of the book. Can you explain to everybody what is the connection economy?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that I think contribute to the connection economy. And I first heard it probably talked about by Seth Godin. The average person checks their phone 125 times a day.
Wow.
I think if you look at the rate that people are joining something like LinkedIn, you've got 20 profiles being created every second. LinkedIn's not going anywhere. But then you've got other things like, the way that people used to connect, in the face-to-face world, I think that still exists. But when you look at the shift that's starting to happen, you've got the average person spending 2 hours a day on social media now instead of watching television. You've also got pubs and clubs being affected. So if you look at, Tinder, a site like Tinder where you've got a dating app, what used to happen is you used to go out with friends and you would meet people out, but that's all stopped. You don't need to do that. You can do that in the convenience of your own home on a Tinder app. So pubs are being affected by the connection economy. Musicians and bands are being affected because people aren't going to the pubs and clubs. So there's more pressure on them to get a return on investment for pubs to get people to go. So I think it's the connection economy in the digital space. There are still sites like Meetup and things like that that have recognized that people still need to connect in a face-to-face way. But the digital way, there's a shift away from face-to-face activity onto digital. People are keeping up with their grandkids on Facebook and stuff like that. But I think LinkedIn amplifies the connection economy because of the first, second, and third level connections. And it might not seem like, people kind of go, oh, yeah, you're a first level connection and don't think too much about it. But what I've noticed with the connection economy, and particularly LinkedIn because they're called connections, when you need help with something, if you're trying to find someone and you don't know anyone in your network, but you do a search, so if you do a Google search trying to find someone, the people who will turn up in that search are your first, second, and third level connections. So it's about being found, and people are not necessarily realizing that who you're connected to, they kind of go, oh, is it really that important? Yes, it is, because in the connection economy, how you're found and how people want to work with you, whether you're a job seeker, whether you're a solopreneur or a company, that people connect with people. And in a digital space, it gives you so much more access. And I think people do want to connect. You only have to see how many connection requests you're getting all the time. And I'd say it's because we're in this connection economy. People want to connect with you.
That brings up an interesting point, because people do want to, people connect with people. And one of the things I thought was interesting about the title of the book is you referred to it as lead generation, which is usually a term that's reserved for, say, marketing within a company. So, KYLIE, how does lead generation apply within LinkedIn as it relates to, say, an individual? And, are there different types of lead generators within LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it still comes back to, it's about generating interest and engagement and getting those views and getting people attracted to you and your profile. So, for a job seeker, the lead for a job seeker is, we're looking at things like recruiters and hiring managers and things like that. So for a consultant, for a small business owner, it's someone like, their ideal client and things like that. For a company, it's a different audience again. So I think no matter who the audience is that they're looking to get some result or outcome from their profile, and that comes through the leads that they're getting.
That's the kind of cool thing about LinkedIn, is it combines both people and companies. And really, if we believe, what Tom Peters said so many years ago about personal branding, that we are the CEO of Me Inc., I think all of us need to look at ourselves as a company, and in which case then lead generation definitely applies.
Absolutely. Definitely.
If I'm on LinkedIn today, how do I assess kind of where I am right now, Jane? What would I do to say, this is my current status on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think there's probably a few things you'd be looking at. And I think it comes back to your purpose and what you're trying to achieve and what activity is happening. So you generally get, I think if you're somebody who is a job seeker and if you're thinking, well, I want to put myself on there, but I don't know how to put myself out there, then you've really got to look at, well, what's the purpose? I don't necessarily think that LinkedIn is for everybody. And I think that's one of the things that we probably say to people is, do you really need it? There's plenty of people that will refer off to other social media that are not our space. Like we say, that you're better off probably on Facebook or something like that. But I think if you're thinking about how you can access people and where you are right now, maybe you haven't got a profile at all. The problem with that is that people are making judgments about you and you don't even realize. So they're like, oh, well, they'll make a perception about you because you haven't pigeonholed or you haven't helped them categorize you and create the perception about you. And if you don't create the perception, then they'll create it themselves. I think the next level is someone who has got a profile, but their profile looks like a resume. And I think at this level, it looks a bit like an obituary. If I read it out loud, it would probably sound like I'm at your funeral. And so one of the problems that I find with people whose profiles are written like that is that they'll often say, I'm not getting any interest. I don't know what I have to do to connect or to get it to stand out. Because the thing is their profile is focusing on past activities and they're just going to get more of what they've had. I think the next level is someone who is starting to have a profile that it has a bit more positioning in it. And if you've got positioning, it means that you've put some thought into your profile. You've built it so that you can turn up in search results, but you've also built it in a way that when someone lands on your profile, you only have 4 seconds to stand out.
Wow.
So when they land on your profile, you really need them to think, wow, this person's amazing. This is exactly who I've been trying to find. So we've got to capture that person really quickly. And then I think at the top level is someone who is now advancing the agenda. So I think one of the common complaints that we get is I've done all this stuff and I'm not getting any interest. Well, people don't magically appear. You don't set it all up and sit back and put on have a pina colada and wait for everyone to turn up.
That's not how it works?
No. So,
maybe that's what I've been doing wrong. Too many pina coladas.
Yeah, it might be. We might have to back off on those bit, Ryan. Might have to settle down on those. But you've got to do the work to get people to engage and connect with you. You've got to be proactive. However, there's no no point in being proactive until you've set your profile up effectively and so that it really pops. Because if you're out trying to do proactive activity, when people land on your profile, they're not captivated by it. And so you're going to have a really hard slog against you. You're going to be pushing the proverbial uphill, and that's a lot of sweat. So I think if you know you're somewhere on that scale, I think quite often when we work with clients, we try to find where are they on that spectrum, because that determines the next step.
Okay. All right. So KYLIE, is there a difference, or does an all-star profile equal an effective profile?
Yeah. So that's definitely a question that I get a lot as well from clients. They'll come in and they'll want to be an all-star profile. So there's a couple of things that we need to look at with metrics and how we measure the effectiveness of the profile. So with things like all-star profiles, it's really just looking at what data has been filled. So, and it's really great to have an all-star profile, and it's absolutely a good start. But I think the extension on that, or how you take that a bit further, is looking at the quality of the data and what's actually in there. So you can have an all-star profile, but are you search engine optimized? Are people finding you? Are you positioned correctly? So I think the all-star and having an all-star profile is absolutely a good start, but there's definitely more opportunity there for people to measure their profile. So sometimes we'll look at different matrix for clients, and that's really dependent on what their goals are.
Okay. So Jane, you and KYLIE both have now mentioned two words multiple times: goals and strategy. Most people, when they go to LinkedIn, at least initially, they just want to copy and paste their resume, which I think we'll all agree is not a good goal or strategy. So Jane, when you're helping someone, what are some of the things that you discuss with them to help them determine what their goal actually should be for LinkedIn?
Yeah, good question. So I look at, what are you trying to do within the next 12 to 18 months? And so not necessarily what you've done in the past, but what have you done in the past that links to that goal? So if you look at, let's say, for example, somebody's trying to make a move from a chief marketing officer role into, an operations role. Their ultimate goal might be to become CEO, but that's probably 3 to 5 years away. But they need to diversify and move over into more operations management or something like that. So we pull out, if you've come from a chief marketing officer role, your focus is on digital strategy, it's on market research, it's on all these, marketing activities. But the common skills that refer or that are consistent with an operations director or operations manager are managing high performance teams, determining return on investment for the business, all those types of things. And so those are the words that need to link to the future, as opposed to, otherwise people see all this digital stuff and they look, or marketing activity, and they go, why would we hire this person? That doesn't relate to operations. So the first thing is you have to identify where you're trying to go and make sure that the content that's in your profile matches that. So I think some of the things that I look for is, where are you trying to head? Even just a person's vision. I do a lot of work with CEOs in their profiles, and one of the hardest activities it is, even for them, is for them to have their vision for their own businesses. They know strategy and they know what they deliver right now, but they don't always have their vision very clear. And people buy into a vision. I think the other thing too is, who are the types of clients that you work with? Because your profile's like a mirror. So when somebody lands on it, they need to see themselves in you. And if they can see, you help someone like me, I can see me in you. So for example, like we work with thought leaders, experts in their field. I work with doctors and academics. So I have to have those words in my profile, because if an academic lands on my profile and they don't see the word academic, then they're gone. So certainly the goal, what is it that you're trying to do? Who do you help? The other thing I look for is, how do you help? So do you run workshops? Are you a mentor? Are you a coach? Or if you're a job seeker, what are the specific activities you do as part of your role? Or if you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, what type of business services do you offer? So what are the specific activities that if somebody lands on your profile, they can sort of see it's like a shopping list of things that they could possibly want.
KYLIE, there's 4 different types of LinkedIn users that you run into. There's a persister, an attempter, an avoider, and a rock star. And obviously everybody wants to get to the rock star stage. But before you get there, you kind of have to take control of your profile. Where would you recommend people start to begin to take control of that profile?
Yeah, absolutely. So once we've talked about, like Jane was saying, the strategy and the plan and the goal of where they're looking to go, it's really then developing that step-by-step process of how they're going to get there. So once you know where you are using things like understanding and the diagnostic, then we look at where you need to go. It's really about filling that gap to get you to the level that you need to be at.
Okay. So I think at this point, as we're building our profile, we're really starting now to talk about the importance of SEO. I think, Jane, you can tell us the importance of SEO within LinkedIn. I mean, is it, you hear about SEO from a Google standpoint, but is SEO as equally important within LinkedIn?
Oh, for sure. To give you an example, just last week I was working with a woman who's an expert in collaboration. So she's an author. She's about to go to China. She's having her book translated into Chinese. She's got an extraordinary positioning in the market. Now, when I looked at her profile and I did a search, she wasn't even registering on the Google search for the top 25 profiles for that word. The person who was at the top of that keyword, say collaboration expert, was somebody who was in a sales job in Sydney. So if in her case, her target market is an event manager, a conference manager, or an organization looking for a consultant. So they couldn't even find her. And so for the average person who's building their profile, I don't think they realize the impact, but just something as simple as that with the search engine optimization, might not realize who you're competing with when people are trying to find you. And if they can't find you easily, then they just give up and they'll go and look for somebody else. So that search engine optimization simply, I think the most important thing, first of all, is that you're at least found.
Right. And you guys highlight in the book 5 key areas where you can maximize your SEO efforts. And again, you just do a great job of walking people through exactly what to do in each of the 5 areas. And the first one's your title, then summary, employment history, skills, endorsements, and recommendations. KYLIE, when we talk about the title, what is your best tip for helping people create what would be a standout title?
Yeah, the title is absolutely important, and I really like working with people on their titles, because what happens a lot is that you'll see that when people set up their LinkedIn profile, that their title actually will default to their current job title. So what that means is it's a bit like if you're on Google and if you're searching on Google for, holiday accommodation, and you put in hotel in Hawaii, you get a list of hotels. And what will happen is you'll read that little headline, and that's really key in determining if you're going to click through to that particular website. So that's what your headline is in your LinkedIn profile. It's when somebody does the SEO or does the search and profiles are returned, they'll see 3 things. They'll see your photo, your name, and your headline. So your headline is really, it's really key to getting people to click through to your profile. And it's a really great way for people to leverage their profile when a lot of their competitors, have that sort of standard job title as their headline. So yeah, really excited about headlines.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the first thing people read, right? As soon as you get on, right after they look at your picture, I'm assuming they're going to look at your headline. And if it doesn't capture them in 4 seconds, they're gone.
Yeah, that's right. You're not even getting click through. So, and you've done all this awesome work on your profile and it's looking great. And if they're not clicking through, they're just not getting the opportunity to see that.
One of the questions that I'm curious about, because I hear about it a lot, is the recommendations section. Do you think recommendations matter, Jane, as much to people when they view them, or do they go, it's kind of, you probably just had your friends write them? Are they important?
They're definitely important, and I think there's a few reasons. If you look at endorsements, I think endorsements aren't necessarily taken as seriously, but endorsements do form part of the search algorithm, and people often don't realize that. But as opposed to recommendations are pretty powerful because if you've got them, that person who's written it is prepared to have their face and their name associated with some commentary about you. Now, that's incredibly strong social proof. Social proof is when you've got some proof that you can show that somebody out there has validated you and they've seen you speak, or they've worked with you, they've had you as a consultant or a client or whatever it might be. The problem with recommendations on LinkedIn is that they're down the bottom. So, you've only got 4 seconds when somebody lands on your profile to go, oh, wow. So they're often overlooked. The problem is also on LinkedIn is you can't move them. So you can move some of the other content around, but recommendations, you can't get them up the top. What my suggestion is to people with their summary, as you said, is think about what your goal is, what you're trying to do in the next 12 to 18 months. Find the recommendation that you have that relates to that goal, and you need to grab that and get it up in your summary. Don't leave it to way down the bottom. People aren't making a cup of tea and scrolling through your profile.
No, they're making pina coladas.
Yeah, they're making pina coladas. I better do it. Better make it G-rated. A G-rated show. But, the problem is that social proof is so important, but it's way down the bottom. Just because LinkedIn give you these things doesn't mean that you have to do them in the order that they give them to you. So grab your most powerful social proof that you have and get it up into the spot where people will see it in that first 4 seconds.
And part of the social proof, I think, is the section on publications where you can actually, insert videos or insert links to different things. And then there's actually a publication section itself. If someone hasn't actually written a publication, but yet they were featured in a publication or they were interviewed for a publication, do you recommend that they include those in their profile as well?
Yeah, I think, yes. I think that it all comes back to the person's goal, though. So if that publication and if that interview with that publication links to what they're trying to do, then I would probably prioritize it in the profile. But I would also look at it in the context of what else they have done. Is that interview in that publication the most powerful social proof that you have? So for example, if they didn't have enough recommendations or they didn't have a recommendation that linked to their purpose and their goal, then I would say yes. I would say, let's get that publication up a bit earlier. So the challenge we've got is that we've got this digital first thing where you're validated often before somebody looks at your resume or they interview you. And so decisions are made before you even talk to someone. So that social proof is very important, yes.
And I think it ties in really well to the chapter you have on personal branding, which is my personal favorite for obvious reasons, maybe. KYLIE, I'm wondering, can people send mixed messages with their profile if they're not congruent from a picture, from a title, a purpose and positioning standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. It's about sending a really clear message, and that everything's really consistent around where you are, but also where you're looking to go in your audience. So what I mean by that is that, somebody's doing the search on LinkedIn and they find you and they read your profile and that's the type of person that I want to help me. Got an example, actually. I worked with a guy recently, and he was a job seeker. And so I talked to him on the phone, and I started to get a picture of what I thought he would look like. I read everything he sent me, and then I looked at his profile photo on LinkedIn, and it just really wasn't what I was expecting. So from that point of view, I was kind of going, oh, okay, I'm a bit confused. This isn't sort of what I thought I was getting. So then that crosses over to, when they are getting hired and that recruitment process. So it's just really about keeping that consistency so that when they're searched for, when they're found online, and then when they're found in person, or once you have that meeting or that engagement in person, that it's consistent, and it just makes the process really easy.
So as people are building up their profile and they're trying to be consistent, Jane, how can How can commenting or posting within the LinkedIn system, how can that help kind of boost or build somebody's personal brand?
Yeah, and that really comes back to what we would call a content strategy or curation strategy. And I think people do it not necessarily very consciously. So they'll see, I don't know about you, but I'm noticing a few sort of Facebook type photos coming through of, women half naked or something like that. And I'm going, oh, this is starting to look a bit like Facebook. So what happens is it changes your perception of that person. Because I thought, I thought you were really professional. You were liking stuff on leadership last week. And now I've got this stuff coming through. So I think when people are starting to try and get a clear message through, like with their personal brand, what do you want to be known for? And say you want to be known for, let's talk about our collaboration expert last week. Then I ideally should be able to see everything that you like and comment and share on. It has something to do with collaboration. Now, if you go off message, if you start sharing stuff on resilience or you're sharing stuff on the legal industry, mediation issues with clients, or you start liking all these other things, then it goes off brand and people get confused. So you have to stay consistent. And you might like those things, but just stop and think, is this going to support my goals and what I'm trying to achieve? Because otherwise I've put all this work into my profile and I'm just going to water down the message. I'm going to water down people's perception of me online, and then I'm probably not going to get what I want. So I think a couple of things to keep in mind is that when people work with you, around 90% of a decision is made before somebody gets in contact with you. So it takes a long time for people to trust you. The other thing too is that around 10 pieces of content are consumed before somebody will pick up the phone and talk to you, and before they decide that they will work with you. So it takes time to build trust. And I think with your liking and commenting, it's a bit like dating. So I think it's the same thing with LinkedIn, is that, sometimes we're ready to have a relationship with a customer. We're ready to have a relationship with a company if we're a job seeker. We're ready, but that company might not be, or that ideal client might not be. So by liking and sharing and commenting is a bit like going on dates. It's just having a pina colada. You just take it easy, you just be cool, and it just allows people to get to know you and not be in a rush.
Okay, so I totally agree with that. And I think that carries over too to just all of social media in general. I think we live in this world where we all want instant gratification, and we forget that, before you have to have a conversation before you can have the conversion.
Yes.
And one of the things I think people get really excited and they want to connect with a bunch of people really quick. And so they just go in and they start clicking that connect button. So KYLIE, what I want to know is, if we're being strategic and we're setting goals within LinkedIn, how do we know who we should connect with?
Yeah, absolutely. So it definitely goes back to those goals and what you're looking to achieve. So once you've defined your goals and you've developed your strategy, then that's going to include who you're going to connect with. So, for example, if it's a job seeker, what that might look like is they might go and search for connections who are, recruiters and hiring managers and things like that in their ideal space. So that's part of their strategy. One thing that we do look at is how they do that. So, it's not just pressing that connect and hoping that the person will say yes. It's making those requests really personal so that the person feels like that you're connecting with them as a person, not a commodity. And then coming back from that, I'll talk a lot about when people are asking you to connect and you're accepting, start a dialogue with them at that point. So, I myself, I had a client last week who said, he sent me a connection request. I replied. I sent him a message, just said, thanks so much for connecting. Looks like you're doing great work in a particular area. And that started a conversation, where I was able to say to him, look, is there anything that I can do to help you? He said, yeah, actually. And that's a process that we're in at the moment. As part of that process, he said, I'll be honest with you, I connected with a number of different writers, and you were the only one who responded to me. So for me to respond took not long, and I'm going to get a really good result from doing something as simple as responding to someone who asked to connect with me instead of just going, yep, accept, and off we go.
Yeah, people don't want to put the effort in. It's amazing. And it doesn't take but 7 minutes a day, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Jane, one of the things that I learned as I was going through your book, I had noticed this, but I did not really understand it until I read the book. Once you connect with somebody, there is I'll call it a table, for lack of a better term, or a box that appears below your profile that says relationship in it. Mm. And in that relationship box, you can actually take notes and give reminders and tag people in that box. I had no idea you could do that. Could you explain a little bit about, how to use that relationship? I'll call it a tab. Let's stick with tab unless you have a better term. How can people really use that to their advantage? Because to me, that seems like kind of a game changer for within the system.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, huh? And when we first saw it, we went, "Oh, this is exciting!" And maybe KYLIE and I need to get out a bit more. But but we get excited by some of these little things because we know the power that they have, and they're just often. And don't get me wrong, we probably throw some rocks at LinkedIn every now and again too. We don't think that they do everything perfectly, but I think this is one of those things that can add some value if you realize why it's there and how you can use it. So the relationship tab, as you said, has a couple of things. You can type in there how you met. So if you do meet a lot of people, you can, when you meet them, particularly if it's face to face, you met them at a conference or whatever, it's a good memory jogger. So you don't have to try and remember. Our brain can only hold 7 things at once. So I think it's a good idea to just jot down you met them at this conference or on the bus or whatever. So it's a good tool for you to refer back to. I think the other thing that I think is really helpful is the reminder, which says a week, a month, and a year. And I think from particularly a lead generation perspective, or even if you're a job seeker, so I think it's good to use it for, follow up and be able to follow up with clients or companies that you particularly want to work with. So you can use it as a reminder, and it sends an email to you into your inbox to say, this is a reminder for you to follow up with this person or whatever. So the reminder is a really cool tool. The tagging area, you can create a tag. So if you're a job seeker, you might have tags based on location, or it could be tags based on industry. So you might say, I'm looking at jobs in LA, I'm looking at jobs in San Diego, I'm looking at jobs in San Francisco or Silicon Valley or whatever. So you might have the tags based on those locations and that they're your contacts in those areas, or it could be the type of industry, it might be IT, hospitality, whatever. So the tags will just help you to be able to go back and look at how you've categorized them. So it's about getting your hands on your information quickly instead of having to wade through, this volume of contacts that you've got.
Right. Yeah. I thought it was pretty slick. Like I said, I had noticed it, but I never really understood what it was for until I went through the book. And so I have a note for you now, pina coladas. That's my note for you.
I think the other thing on that, Ryan, too, is something that people often forget is even that other contact. It's got the contact drop-down area.
Yep.
And that only comes up if you're really connected to the person. And one of the biggest mistakes that we find with people's profiles is that there are no contact details on people's profiles. We can't get in contact with people, or you have to be connected to them to find how to get in touch with them. So it's just a simple thing, but we find it time and time again where we go, do you realize how hard you are to get in contact with? No wonder you haven't got people coming to you. So, it's just a really simple thing is just making sure you have contact details on your profile.
Yeah. I also find quite often, I'm sure you two do as well, that just in the, the personalized URL, a lot of people don't put their name there. So they'll be, Ryan Roten at 592368, whatever. And that's part of SEO too, right? Having a personalized kind of vanity URL there.
Yeah. It's just a simple thing, it can make a real difference. Absolutely.
I want to move away from individuals for just a minute, and I want to talk about individuals who work within an organization or a company. KYLIE, is there a strategy that organizations can use? Because, a lot of companies may get nervous, say, about letting their employees have LinkedIn profiles. I mean, I know people who've worked at companies who've said you can't have a LinkedIn profile. But is there, I think I'm seeing more now, organizations and companies are saying, not only do we want you to have a LinkedIn profile, but we want you to be active. Do you see that same thing? And if so, is there a strategy that organizations or companies should use when they try to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that comes down to education. So I think as we talked about earlier, when LinkedIn initially came about, it was very much seen as a job seeker tool. So there's been a period of time where that perception has still been around, and that's what people see. So I think as time goes on, is that businesses and organizations can see that LinkedIn can absolutely offer some definite benefits to them. So one of the concerns will be is, if I put my team on LinkedIn, they're just going to get found by recruiters and they're going to leave. So the big thing there is your strategy and your plan. So when I work with job seekers, that's a very different strategy, very different SEO plan, very different content strategy than to if we're looking at an organization. So within a team or a business, a LinkedIn profile that's been written to support the business, if anything, will actually detract recruiters because they're not going to get found for those recruiter terms. They're going to get found for those business terms. Then when we're looking at teams, it's really looking at the person in that team, what their purpose is within that team, and then developing the strategy to support that.
So if a company moves into that, or even just an individual, and we kind of started to touch on this before when we talked about the All-Star profile, are there metrics that companies should pay attention to within LinkedIn, and then other metrics that they should just say ignore?
Yeah, sure. So with your metrics, again, and I know I keep going back to it, but it's really about, first of all, your goal and what you're looking to achieve. So once you've got your goal and your outcome and what you're looking to achieve, then you can develop how you're going to measure and score that.
So what you're saying is people need a goal.
Yep. Yeah. Did you get that?
and we need a strategy. So if people take away anything from this, they need to take away two things: buy a book, and buy the book, and go get a goal and a strategy.
Yeah. If you just go and go, I'm just going to go out and put things on, you can't measure it because you don't know what you're looking to achieve.
As we talk about goals and strategies, and Jane, we'll close this out with you. Is a premium account worth, in your opinion, the money that it costs for the individual within LinkedIn? So should they pay for that premium account or not? What do you think?
The number one question I'm asked. I'm glad you asked. So my opinion is that there's a lot of great work that can happen before you have to fork out money. The problem is that the number one clicked on area on LinkedIn is who viewed my profile. And so the benefit of having a premium account is you get to see everyone who's stalked you. And so I think LinkedIn certainly play into that a little bit, and that's the benefit of having a premium account. There are a couple of other benefits, like you get more emails and you get to access more people in your third level connections, and you can offer to connect with them. So the short answer is, when somebody's asking me that, the first thing is I go and look at their account, and I look at the metrics and what's going on for them, and is it serving their purpose? If not, we watch it for 3 months, and then if they're doing everything they possibly can, if they've followed the process, then I'll say, all right, now you're ready to step up into a premium account. But I think the problem or the perception is that if I just throw more money at this thing, it will bring more leads, and that's just not the case.
Yeah, so a bad profile is a bad profile regardless if you're paying for it or not.
You can't put lipstick on a pig.
I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and clearly I could talk to you guys for a lot longer, but I'll spare you that and let you get on with your Saturday. And I do appreciate you both taking the time to talk with me. But before I do that, I would like to know, we'll start with KYLIE. What is the best way for anybody listening to get in touch with you, KYLIE? And then we'll do the same for Jane. And then if one of the two of you can let me know where it is we can buy the book.
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way, I guess firstly, it was really great to talk to you again and be back on the show and talk about the book. So that's been really great for us and really enjoyed that too. The best way people can get in contact with me is via LinkedIn. So my LinkedIn profile is KYLIE Chown, which is CHOWN, or via my website, which is www.kyliechown.com. If people are looking to buy the book, we can pop you a link to the book page on Amazon, and it will be on there.
Okay, awesome. And I'll make sure that we link to that page in Amazon, because I seriously do recommend people go get this. This is my third book on LinkedIn, and this is by far the best one.
Thank you.
Jane, how can the listeners get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more about you?
Yeah, there's a few ways. So my website is jane-anderson.com. So you can jump on there. That probably leads to all paths to where you want to go. But they can jump on LinkedIn, obviously. So Jane Anderson, and Personal Impact is the URL. Or they can jump on my podcast on iTunes as well. They're probably the main areas. And as Kylie said, we've got the book on both our websites and also Amazon.com. It's also available in Kindle, so if you would like a digital version. But I would say if I was in someone's shoes and think about getting the book, get the paperback, because you can put it above your desk if you've got a shelf above your desk, and you can just pull it off when there are certain things you're stuck on. It's very much a practical how-to guide, and it was designed to be able to pull it off your shelf and do what you need to do if you're stuck.
Yeah, anytime you've got 7 minutes, pull it off the shelf and get working.
Thank you so much for having us, Ryan. You do a fantastic job, and you're really a huge advocate for helping people understand about the impact that their personal brand has. So keep up the great work.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you both very much for being a guest today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So what about you? Do you have a goal or a strategy for LinkedIn? The reality is that most people on LinkedIn don't, which actually is good news for you. Why? Because if you develop a strategy and you have goals for LinkedIn, you'll be able to stand out from your competition, be found in search results, and start to build the trust that is required in today's connection economy. If you've ever been confused by LinkedIn or you struggle to obtain connections, do yourself a favor and pick up a copy of KYLIE and Jane's book. It will take a few pina coladas and some effort on your part to get set up the right way, but once you do, you'll be able to start moving towards your goals in as little as 7 minutes a day. A quick note here. The Pina Colada song by Rupert Holmes is actually called Escape, by the way, and it happens to be just over 4 minutes long. So when you sit down to work on your profile, I would plan for 11 minutes total, because believe me, once the song starts playing, you're not going to be able to concentrate on your LinkedIn profile. Oh, and I'll also caution you that you should be prepared to sing that song the rest of the day. KYLIE and Jane, thank you for being guests on the show today and for sharing your LinkedIn wisdom with us. Your book really is the best book I've read on LinkedIn, and I wish you both the best of luck with future sales. As always, for you, the listener, thank you for tuning in today. Don't forget, this is a podcast, which means you can subscribe to the show and have each week's episode delivered right to your virtual front door. So hit the subscribe button, grab a pina colada, and get started leveraging your LinkedIn profile today. The show notes can all be found on the website at ryanroten.com/connect. Until next week, cheers. I've been Ryan, and I'm out. Today's show was edited and produced by Ryan Roten, and the intro and outro music is Pulse by Soundroad.